Hi everyone, I'd like to welcome you to this webinar about the Red Hat Product Security Organization here at Red Hat. I'm Garth Mollett, I'm the Product Security Lead Architect. I'm part of the Product Security Global Leadership Team. Joining me here today, I've got two other members from our Product Security Global Leadership Team, Pete Aylor, the Senior Director of our PCERT, Emi Aid, the Director of the Product Security Resilient Development Team. We've also got Wilson Toe joining us from the APAC region. So today we're going to be talking to you about a little bit of an introduction to product security, just some of our history and the guiding principles that we follow. Then Pete's going to take over and he's going to run through the operation and some of the challenges and statistics from the Red Hat Product Security Incident Response Team. We'll stop then for questions and answers. I suspect there's some pretty hot topics there that people will have questions about. Then we'll go, Wilson's going to take over and we're going to have a live demo, which I know is always a little bit scary, but hopefully it all works, about Red Hat compliance portal. And so we'll talk about some of the compliance activities that Red Hat does. Emi Aid will then jump in, talk about the trusted software supply chain and everything that goes into keeping Red Hat software secure before it's delivered to customers and how that all works. I'll jump back in after that for just a really quick summary, and we'll hand it back over once again for questions and answers. So Red Hat Product Security has existed in some form or another at Red Hat for almost 25 years, right since when Red Hat was really just a Linux distribution. 2001, the team was actually started by a man known as Mark Cox. We knew internally as MJC. In a car park of all places, the team actually got started. It's a phone call from Paul Cormier, who was the head of products and technology, if I recall correctly at the time, but he called Mark on the phone just after Mark's company had been acquired by Red Hat and let him know that he would now be heading up Red Hat's first security response team. That team at the time, very, very small, that Mark put together. It started with just Mark himself, expanded to a handful of people, very heavily focused on security response, vulnerability response, that kind of thing, as can sort of be ascertained from the name there as the security response team. Now, over time, that 25 years, quite a long time by anyone's standard. I've been here for 13 of those 25 years. The scope and the size of product security at Red Hat has expanded enormously. We're now not just a small team at all, but in fact, multiple organizations that actually make up the larger product security organization, such as the organizations headed up by Pete and Emi, who you'll hear from later today. As the team grew and as the scope of the team grew, and there was more and more of a need to capture some of that work that we sort of held intrinsic to as those values when there was a small team, and find a way that, you know, people can still work independently but understand what those values were. So I took the initiative of documenting these. I'm actually the author of these guiding principles that are now published for the sake of transparency on the Red Hat website. Now, some of these, they'll probably be really familiar to anyone these days. Things like defensive depth and secure by design, you'll hear this echoed in government standards and everything now, which I think really shows that like what we were thinking has really resonated. Now, I'm not going to claim that these originally came from us. These are well-known concepts in security. We just adapted some of these to Red Hat. There are some sort of uniquely Red Hat things on these, though, that I'd like to call out. Transparency, you've heard me mention already. This is really key, not just to open source, but key to product security as well. Like, you'll see the data that Pete's team produces is completely open and it's shared with everyone in open standards. We release our risk report every year, which covers highlights from everything that we've been doing for the year. You know, that's really a key part of product security, is that open source ethos. And this very last one, which I think is actually really important, is that we understand the threat. We don't do a bunch of random security activities because, you know, someone else says we should do them or anything like that. While we do obviously align to industry standards and that kind of thing, we spend a lot of time doing our own research and really trying to understand what the real threats are, so that the defenses that we build and the activities that we take are actually addressing real world threats, real world security problems, not just random ideas of what security should be. Now, just a quick shout out, it wasn't covered in the presentation, but to a couple of new products that Red Hat has brought out recently. The RHEL AI and OpenShift AI. These are Red Hat's AI platforms. A lot of you probably have questions about like what the security impacts of this are, and this is also something that Red Hat Product Security is now covering with our AI security program. So if there's questions about that, happy to answer those if I can as well.